Well, this helped. I mean, actually just seeing it, I think, honestly, doing a thought map and writing it out. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not failing at everything.
Right.
Like,
So you have been through the Mentally Strong Method class. So you know that that first question in the thought map is kind of what is a feeling, a thought or emotion that maybe you struggle with often?
yeah, absolutely. I would say either the feeling of anxiety or kind of the feeling of being overwhelmed.
Okay.
So whichever.
Which one do you think is deeper?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the overwhelm is about the current environment, right?
Absolutely.
And it's pushing that anxiety. Yeah. So let's put anxiety right there. There you go. So we could actually make one of the bubbles overwhelmed, right? Because when you're overwhelmed, the anxiety is more evident.
Absolutely.
What makes you overwhelmed?
A lot of different life circumstances.
Okay.
I would say a lot of changes that have happened quickly.
Okay.
I also am going to be a mom, and so like in the most beautiful way of being overwhelmed, but it's also a very new thing. And so
change is definitely one.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're going to make motherhood its own bubble because I know there's a lot under that. So go ahead and put motherhood up there. Or just mother. So let's go back to here. What other things, just in your whole life, like make you overwhelmed or making you overwhelmed right now?
Yeah. Trying to think. I would say finances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Money. Mm-hmm. Now, what about money makes you anxious?
I mean, I guess I would say kind of the typical most would say just worrying, especially with having a new child and changes, not having enough.
Okay, so put not enough. Anything else about money that are you personally good with money, or is this more of a future anxiety? Is there current situations going on now?
I would say overall I'm pretty personally good, but there have been some like circumstances from the past that have just made it so it's more of a catch-up situation right now. Yeah. And so I would say it's...
Let's write that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a little different than change, right? It's like my past decisions or someone, my spouse's past decisions are like, impacting me now.
Absolutely. How would you like me to...
However, like just past, because it's connected to money, right?
Yeah.
Or, past kind of catching up, or the words we use was really more for you to be able to visually see, not for it to make sense to someone else that's watching. Like it's more of, we're going to email this to you and you can go home and pray and meditate on it and go, okay, and always add to it and things like that. So
absolutely.
Okay.
That's awesome.
What else kind of gives you that overwhelming feeling right now?
Totally. Well, I guess just being perfectly honest, just I think feelings of insecurity, like in my new position, hoping that I'm doing enough, that I am doing a good job, and just that sort of thing, and learning new things.
I love that. Put that down. A new job is also about change, right?
Yeah.
So, we can add lines here too, where your job is also contributing to the, it's change. It's all new. It's
absolutely.
You're learning all new things.
Yeah, and change can be a really good thing. Yeah. So it's not that, it's all negative overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this is your first time mom.
Yes.
Tell us about, we're going to fill in these bubbles and probably some more of what is that anxiety?
Yeah. I think it was a surprise finding out. And so at first I was like, this isn't my timing necessarily.
Ooh, okay.
And so kind of a control thing.
Yep.
And so I like to kind of feel in control of my life. And I was like...
But now you're a mother, you'll never be in control.
That's what everyone has told me.
But let's kind of define that a little bit outside of change, because we're going to connect it there too, because it's definitely that feeling of change. Maybe lack of control, timing wasn't, yours, specifically.
Yeah. but now I can't imagine life
No,
any differently.
right?
So,
But that
yeah.
anxiety about timing. Go ahead and
Oh yeah.
either timing or
put that there.
control. And control might be its own bubble because
Yeah.
sounds like you value control. You like to be in control of yourself. You like to be in control of your situation.
Yes, I think that should be its own bubble.
Okay.
I do, and if not even its own bubble in another way.
Yeah. Okay, what else about motherhood is anxiety provoking?
I think just, am I going to be a good mother? Yeah.
Yeah, let's. Oh, sorry.
Should I put good? Or?
Yeah, good
Okay.
mother, yeah,
Okay.
or good, yeah. And then let's define that,
Yeah.
right? Because that's kind of subjective.
Absolutely.
It's filling these bubbles. What is a good mother?
And I think it's funny when I think about it that way, I have less anxiety because to me it's just, being involved with my kids and,
Okay.
And I know that I will be. I guess an anxiety that could stem from that as well, though, is how do I find that balance after, like, the work-life personal balance? That's something that's...
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's common for women who want to work outside the home. Like if that is your desire to be able to do both, how do you do that successfully and still make being a good mother the priority?
Absolutely, absolutely. So...
Okay. What else is a good mother?
Ooh, so many things. So it's hard to. I could just name the characteristics. I would just say being loving, caring.
Yeah, that's the word I was hoping you would come up with.
Yes, loving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you're gonna love the baby.
Absolutely. No, and so then when I think about all these things, I'm like, maybe that one, the life balance, will be a future learning thing, but the loving and like the involvement, I'm like, I know I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay,
Exactly.
I can do it.
You can
but
do it. Yeah, good. What else is an anxiety about the actual act of being a mother? So we have the, being a good mother, and it actually was kind of an aha moment for you because you were like, of course I'm going to be a good mother, right? So what are you afraid of being a mother in that role? What fears you?
Definitely knowing that my children are going to go through hard things in life, that they're going to have a lot of challenges, and I can't foresee them. I don't know what they're going to be. So, let's see. Should I say unforeseen challenges or just challenges?
Or hardships.
Hardships,
yeah.
okay.
What is your biggest fear in those hardships?
Knowing that I can't control the situation when they're going through things. They're going to have to go through them as all of us do in life. As I talk to my own mother now, she's like, I wish there were so many times in your life I could have, changed certain things that happened, but you can't. And so I think also thinking about my life.
So what else about kind of hardships and good mother? I'm kind of looking for a word, but it might be my word, so I don't want to put it on you.
Yeah.
You like to do things right and perfect.
Yes.
Do you think you will be able to do that?
No, not even a little bit.
So what's your word about that fear of,
Let me think. Because, I definitely have a perfectionist side to me. I'm blanking on a specific word.
Let's just put not perfect.
Okay.
Let's just put up here, not perfect.
Yeah.
And that has to, be, that's like connected to all three of those, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just a lot of life changes, and motherhood is a huge life change. Like, probably one of the biggest that you'll ever go through, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. So let's kind of go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
In your life, what has made you anxious? Not all the way back to childhood. You're a young adult, maybe from 15 to now, the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. Change.
Okay. So that's a theme.
Yes.
What kind of change
Well, I would say not so much in the teenage years. From like 15 to 18, I don't think I have a lot from those years. They were pretty, say, normal years. Really more so in the last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was the biggest change. So I moved, I kind of took on this big adventure. I moved to Hawaii to work on a cruise ship. And so that was kind of a big step. I had previously been living in Indiana and worked at a medical clinic, and so just kind of a more so stable life.
When you were on the cruise ship, what made you anxious?
Well, I would just say overall it was actually, I did kind of thrive in that experience.
Okay.
I would say just the amount of, well, I'm going to go back to change, the amount of change. Every week you would get close to people, and then due to contracts, people leave. So people were in and out a lot. So that
actually
got hard.
Some loss.
Yeah. I mean, I would say not deep loss, but dealing with almost superficial loss. Like, oh, I got close to that friend for, and there's a lot of, I would say, trauma bonding on there, just because.
A lot of young people telling their trauma to each
And
other.
I mean, all people of all ages, all backgrounds, just due to the fact too, you're working 7 days a week. I had probably one of the cushiest jobs where I was only working like 8-9 hours a day. Most people were working 3 shifts a day, like 70-80 hours a week. And so it was, and so you get really close to people. You live and work and eat in the same place.
Yeah.
And so, when people would leave, come in and out, that would be hard.
Yeah.
Because you would get close to people.
Do you keep in contact with your friends that?
I do, a few of them. Yeah.
Okay.
The ones I was closest to, that I had the strongest relationships with. Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's still lots of micro bonding. I mean, micro bonding and then loss, you know.
Absolutely.
You've heard and told your story to people, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
So,
what else?
Of changes?
Well, let's go with change in general in your whole life.
In the whole life.
Yeah,
okay.
because it's, clearly a theme, right?
Yes. I mean, another thing, of course, this actually does go back to only a year ago, but I got married.
Okay.
And so that is another big life change, which was amazing. But again, another life change.
And you're still in your honeymoon period. My husband and I were in our honeymoon period for a solid 7 years. And then it hit. So,
absolutely.
What kinds of fears do you have around that change?
Yeah. I would say now more so they've evened out a lot. Early on, though, I am someone who, it's harder for me to get really close to people. And that's challenging, building relationships.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the challenging one.
So here, back on the cruise, like, you allowed yourself to do it.
Yes.
But now I want you to acknowledge that that was a loss.
Yes.
Because you allowed yourself to share your story, and then you've only kind of kept in touch with a few of them.
Yes.
So you.
You just touched on something for me. Yeah. It's hard for me to get close to people, but then once I do, and then if something, I've had some bad friendships, certain things happen in the past that have been really hard. They hit me hard because,
So loss of friendships. Yeah.
Or,
especially when you, it's so hard for you to open up.
Yeah. Or just realizing the friendship wasn't what I thought it was, or the relationship wasn't what I thought it was. And so that's hard too, when you're like, oh, I've actually been authentic. I've been myself, I've opened up, and then you realize, no, it hasn't been reciprocated.
Right. So kind of a trust thing.
Absolutely.
So just, again, we don't have to give details, but like, I know that is a huge change.
Yeah.
I know that you want to be perfect. Just like you want to be a perfect mother, you probably want to be a perfect wife. What are some anxieties around this change for you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess similar to the motherhood, like not, and this is going to sound silly, but not fulfilling this role I think that I have to perfectly.
Well, it's a big thing in our culture. I think in a lot of cultures of what a wife is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So go ahead and write that.
See.
Role. Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm the only one who puts this on myself. I don't feel any pressure from anyone else, especially my husband at all.
Right.
I'm just the one who puts this on myself. And so, yeah.
What about the role, and however you define it, right? Because it's more of the role that you want to be in that relationship. What about that role scares you, or you worry that you won't be able to fulfill?
Absolutely. Balancing it all. I think also I think anyone in this position, it's all new for them. So of course it's going to be all new. So figuring out like,
the actual how do I do it?
How do I do it? Exactly.
That's huge. Because a lot of times, especially in the role of wife and mother, like you get a job, you're taught how to do that job, right?
Yes, absolutely.
You get married, no one teaches you how to be a wife, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some cultures they do, but then you're in somebody else's standard of what that role is, right?
Yeah.
And the same with motherhood. They just assume you're a woman, you know how to be a mother. And so maybe that anticipatory self-learning, does that scare you?
Yeah, I think that's something I would say like it scares me, but it's really exciting because I do love to grow. I love to challenge myself and be everything I can be, I guess.
Right.
But it's scary because it's also making me take a deep look inside internally, because I also know first being married and then now with going to be a mother, I have to do a lot of internal work that I have absolutely not wanted to take a look at, but I have to in order to,
be the mother and the wife that you want to be.
Yes.
So we're going to actually connect those somehow. Let's see, this whole thing kind of over here, and then we're going to, I want you to put the word growth there.
Okay.
And we're going to connect that to mother, and we're going to connect that, right? That's a lot of anxiety. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to do it right. Yeah. What other things around growth? Like it's exciting to you, and go ahead and put exciting there, because excitement is actually the mild anxiety. So if we are excited about something, it gives us the drive and the motivation, like to learn it and those kinds of things. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
So think about, when I teach people about anxiety, I always talk about it's a continuum. And you're not trying to get rid of your anxiety, you're trying to move it over to this excited piece. Like, okay, like I'm overwhelmed, but none of the decisions that I've made, I'm regretting or anything like that. It's just all of these new things. It's really, for you, it's about, I want to do them well, I'm excited about them, but when that excitement gets to an anxiety level, that's when it starts to impact you.
Definitely. Yeah.
So instead of trying to get rid of anxiety, you're just trying to bring it down to an excitement level rather than a, moderate anxiety level.
That makes so much sense. Wow. That's really cool. Yeah.
So growth. What about growth scares you?
The internal work that it takes for it. When it comes to personal growth, I love, things like, of course, we talked about overwhelmed in a new job, but that growth I just love because I'm learning new things. I know I can see the progress. Well, hopefully see the progress, and it's less so. I don't know. Something about the internal work is just. I feel like sometimes it can show like I'm less than a person, or I'm. Should I write less than? Okay.
Whatever those things that you say. What else do you say to yourself that kind of inhibit growth?
This might not be completely related, so if it's not, we can
put it in a different level somewhere else. Yeah.
I would say I have a lot of also like imposter syndrome, and I think that comes with this.
Yeah, no, I do think that goes here.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a very common thing.
With like me wanting to appear perfect or have everything in control. But I know internally I don't. I definitely have this, I guess the cognitive dissonance of it. knowing that I don't, but I'm portraying this person, I have a lot of like, oh my gosh, I'm just waiting for all of them to find out that I don't know what I'm doing.
Is it mostly in this new role, or did you feel that way at the cruise?
I would say I've always felt that in life in
Okay.
general. I would say that's not a new thing for me. I felt that at a young age in school.
Yeah. So how would you? So imposter syndrome is definitely an adult word, right?
Yes, yeah.
When you were a kid, how would you describe that feeling?
Yeah, probably. I guess just like deep insecurities. I would
Okay.
say. I could probably think of a more specific word, but that's probably just deep insecurity.
Yep.
I was very, and I'm still probably a pretty insecure person in certain ways. And
so let's now we're getting deep, right?
Admitting it all.
what are some insecurities, and we can move this over so you can.
Yeah. Would this be past stuff or current?
No, we're kind of in our childhood. Like
Okay.
Going back to what are those insecurities?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be really, really shy and quiet in school. And so kind of, I felt a little bit like the outcast, but I don't really think others thought of me that way.
Okay.
But I always kind of thought of myself as, I didn't fit in.
Okay. That's definitely, okay.
And
How did that make you feel?
just other than, less than.
Okay.
I felt like,
I put less.
okay. I would think, and I don't think in necessarily like a super depressive way. Like these were pretty.
Well,
like,
this is important that we stop and talk about this because a lot of times people think the mentally strong method is like for someone who actually has like anxiety disorder or depression, and it's really not. It's for everybody.
Everyone who has these emotions.
We all have all of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And this is what we're trying to show that, we all have this negative dialogue. It doesn't mean that you have anything wrong with you. This is about like acknowledging that we're all on this journey and how do we get stronger.
Totally. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that,
So why else in your childlike mind, right? Because you even said now, as an adult, you look back and you're like, I don't think anyone else thought of me that way.
Yeah.
But what was that internal dialogue of that child?
It was strong.
Okay.
Really, really strong. I'm just a hyper aware person. I've always been really hyper aware, and so I have learned and grown. But I used to take everything so personally.
Okay.
I mean, and now I've learned. Oh, other people have bad days. People,
Okay. So what kind of things would you take personally? Like.
I guess like with childhood things, just other kids making like callous comments or.
And you would take them in as like a belief system, then you would believe them?
Yes. And probably
what words do you remember? We all remember them.
Well, I'll tell you a specific circumstance that happened. And it's really, again, like I wasn't bullied in this sort of thing, this intense sort of way that a lot of kids were.
Yeah.
But one thing that in 3rd grade, we had to make a thought chain. And so we had to write something nice about every kid in the class, and then we connect it and make a chain. I spent so much time thinking about every kid in the class and like personalizing it. And I got mine, and I would say 70 to 80% of them just said, she's really quiet, she's shy. And so those were the nicest things the other kids could say about me.
Okay.
And so it wasn't really bad, but to me it was bad because to me being quiet and shy meant that I wasn't fitting in with them, and that was the best thing they could say. And so that I was just, then it closed me off more.
Yeah. So put shy there because that's definitely that means they didn't know you.
Yes, absolutely.
If that's the best thing that someone could say, then they didn't know you.
Totally. And so that goes both, and I've learned it goes both ways. It's not just other people, but as like a 3rd grader, unfortunately, I wasn't very self-aware. So, or I was, but not in a proper way.
Okay. Well, I wanna use a word, but I want to ask your permission too.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't feel safe.
I would say
expressing
emotionally. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So write that in words that are comfortable for you, because it's a common thing, right?
So can I say emotionally close? I think that also bred some things that of the unhealthy thoughts because I didn't really know how to process any of my emotions.
Right. And you were probably, you know, a perfect kid on the outside, right? So they
Yes.
didn't know
the extent of, internally.
Yeah.
But
And how do you think these internal thoughts are connected to the anxiety about being a good wife and a good mother?
a lot, I would say. I think, just kind of never feeling like I fit in. So then how do I fit into these roles?
Yeah. And a marriage is
so-
supposed to be your most emotionally close.
Yeah.
And even with your parents, who at that time were your, you know, emotionally most close.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. And so I think, like, actually the beautiful thing, I guess, growth in marriage is that it's really taught me how to really emotionally open up a lot. And I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
He'll call me out. But yeah, it's funny. We both of our triggers are basically opposite of each other. And they're what we do for our, like our escape mechanism, or that they're the opposite of each other, and so we both learned. Like,
I don't know why God does that. To
I
us.
know
They always give us somebody who's on that opposite spectrum.
Yeah, but it's been really good for both of us. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but it's helped me grow tremendously. So, yeah.
Good. So, one more question in the thought map is: how does your anxiety, you know, play in your relationship with God? Or your spiritual relationship?
This is the question. So I remember when I went through this before with Heather, I think my bubble was just confusion. That was what I put in.
Okay.
So, however,
are you still confused, or did some enlightenment or, you know, aha moment come from that?
I would say I have a lot of the tools to think through these things, but I would say still overall it's just it's a topic that comes with a lot for me.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So narrow it down. Like, do you believe in God, not believe in God? Where do you want that confusion to lie?
Yeah. I think I really want to. There's just, I have to separate a lot of things, though. It's
like, you
really
want
hard.
to believe in a God, or you want, like...
Yeah, like, I want to. Like, I want to have a spiritual relationship. But it's hard. I have a lot of things that... And again, like, I know that a lot of them aren't correct. Like, I know that there's a lot of things that, like, people have done or things I've heard that doesn't translate to a personal relationship for myself.
Okay.
But it's really hard for me. Like, at this point,
Okay, what is the anxiety behind that relationship, or lack of? And that's its own bubble. So what do you want?
I want to have a spiritual relationship. I do find, because I went through kind of a phase of anger and just not wanting anything. I was like atheist or agnostic, whatever. Like, I've never, I guess, I mean, I have thought deeply, but not, I guess, challenged myself so much to really, like, think about it. But I do actually think that having a spiritual relationship is important, because when I've lacked one, I see that I lack overall in all areas.
Yeah.
And so I'm
it's part of who we are.
Yeah.
So you want one, so just put want.
Yes, I want.
And then we're going to, I think the word here, and you can put a different word if you want, is authentic or genuine relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And so, yeah.
Okay. This is good. So when you look at all of this, and we'll print this out for you, and, you know, you can look at it and kind of meditate on it. Yeah. What, just overall, what did you learn?
Oh, a lot. I think that having certain control issues is really, really unhealthy, and that's impacted me in a lot of negative ways.
Do you know, but why? Why do you want control?
Because it makes so you don't have to deal with this change. You don't have to deal with these things. Life is stable. You know what to expect. I like having those sort of expected things, although I tend to put myself in kind of changing sorts of situations. Growth, so it's interesting. But I also, looking at this, though, think I have it more together in certain ways than I probably internally do. And so I think that I have like this internal dialogue I have, it has done me well in certain ways, but it also tells me a story that isn't isn't actually what I see here. And
So I would say that, what we do next is kind of put them in categories. And, although it feels like change is what causes the anxiety, it's really just a trigger. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Because you actually like it, you seek change.
Yeah, I do.
Which in more severe things, they talk about that kind of being the trauma response. It's like, and you haven't experienced intense trauma, but we all have this cycle that started in childhood, right? Of, needing to be perfect. The more you're perfect, the more you're in control.
Yeah.
The more validation you receive.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then change causes you to have to trigger that growth, which is what you want. But it also triggers this emotional response, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you think your negative thoughts are?
The not enough, I guess, I don't know if imposter syndrome, like what goes into that, but just feeling less.
And so we talk about, there's a difference between negative thoughts and core connections. And I think just from spending this time with you, I think we went straight to less being like a core connection.
Yeah.
Because it started in childhood. It has nothing to do with, it comes up in every situation, and we call those core connections, which will likely be a part of that internal dialogue your whole life, right? Negative thoughts can be easily kind of get rid of, like, of course I can do this. Yeah. Of course. Just like, the negative thought of I'm not going to be a good mother, right? Like as soon as you map that out, you're like, of course I'm going to be a good mother, right? So that is a negative thought.
Yes.
I'm not going to be a good mother, right?
Absolutely.
Those we just have to stop doing.
Totally.
The core connections, they go so deep. And I challenge you to see if this core connection can be associated with kind of that spiritual relationship that you want, like, and how to maybe grow in both of those.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of grief, and I'm sure everyone has other grief in their life, but I am going to identify it just because you didn't. You minimized it. Like, oh, well, yeah, but that was just... Yeah. And I think about a time in my life, this was before Facebook and stuff, I had this core group of friends in the Army in Korea. Oh, yeah. And I have no way of contacting them, and now... I'm like, oh, I wish I knew where they were. I wish I, knew. I can barely remember their names, and so of course not their last names, and then women's names change.
Totally.
And so, so that it is still a little bit of a loss that that you are kind of minimizing.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, so behaviors and choices, I would just challenge you in that spiritual thing, right? And focusing on this piece, right? Trying to like go deep with that for yourself. Yeah. Anything else you think has to do, I mean, your whole thing was anxiety. Yes. But I think, one of the things that we talk about in the Mentally Strong Method is that anxiety really is excitement.
It's I love that. It's so interesting. Yeah.
So what we do in the Mentally Strong Method, we've mapped all of this out. So we call this the power of choice, and learning to organize all those thoughts, right? Because, when you look at that map, it's really good for you to be able to see it all on one paper. We talk about it's like 20 years of journaling in 20 minutes, right? Like you can get it all out on paper. But if we allow our brain to stay in that state, everything is connected and everything is enmeshed, and that is not a way to move forward. So from the things that we identified, I will start here with just anxiety in general. That's it. I want you to rate your general anxiety on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being you feel like you're going crazy. And you're spending a lot of time. Like you're rating it based on how much time, mental energy you're using in anxiety.
Yeah. Let's say like 7 probably.
Okay. this is what I want you to think about when it comes to anxiety. Here we have excited, and then it's like a continuum.
Yep.
Panic.
Yeah.
Right? So you're here at a 7. I would say like 1 to 3 is excited. Right?
Okay.
And the reason, you know, it's like this 1 to 3, it's not just about control, it's about that time spent, because this is definitely wasted time.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is exhausting, but the other is exciting, right? So, which I'm not going to be able to switch, but so you're here, you're not in panic, but you're in internal panic.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
I would say internal. Yeah, I would say I'm good at, I mean, I'm not out of control, certainly.
Right.
So if it needs to be lower, I don't, but.
Well, it's all subjective to you, right? Like, how do you get, in any situation, how do you get your 7 to be a 1 to 3?
The one thing I would say decently good at is talking myself down.
Okay. So I want you to just kind of write yourself a little note over there.
Just say, like, talk myself down.
Because it's a technique that you're using, right? But I want you to it's exhausting to talk yourself down all the time.
Yes.
So what could you do to reframe it to a more productive? Because when in this area, you're functioning.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
But it's exhausting.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. I think that, and I feel like I have been doing better. Like I can see the progress.
Yeah.
I think, well, this helped. I mean, actually just seeing it, I think, honestly, doing a thought map and writing it out. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not failing at everything.
Right.
Like, okay, I have to, there's certain anxieties I'm going to have no matter what. There's certain things I can't control, and there's nothing I can do. And so I just have to go like, okay, I have to let that go. And then some things that I can control, like, okay, what, you know, and then breaking it down to smaller steps, but writing it out.
Yeah.
I've realized that that's something that
So
is
let's
be really helpful.
Reframing and writing it on paper so that you can see and kind of, it's easier to reframe when it's out on paper and you go, well, of course I'm a good mother, you know, type thing. So here in spiritual conflict, because there's definitely a conflict with you.
Yes.
You want a spiritual relationship. I challenge you to write something in this box, like a power choice. What thing, thought, process could you do that would move you towards that want? Absolutely.
Just not being closed off. I think that I need to, I love to read and read more, investigate myself and not just have the thought blocker of just stopping.
Okay. Stopping the thought blocking.
Yes.
So this negative thought that we identified, it would be a THAN or less than?
Yes.
Okay. It's not letting me do it. And we're going to say, we're pretty sure it goes all the way up to core connection, but let's rate that.
Okay.
10 being you actually believe it. Where would you be on that scale?
I would say now, because again, before this would be a totally different answer. I would say now I'm probably at like a 4.
Okay.
It's more just insecurities versus actually truly believing I am less than people.
So here I'm just going to challenge you to be aware of the connection to everything else and to your anxiety so that you can better reframe.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
We should have a personal vision in all of these areas.
Yeah.
Spiritual, physical, mental, financial, career, relationships. What would be something you want to prioritize right now in your life and say, okay, I'm actually going to make a plan and do something with this?
Yeah. I guess I don't know if like personal growth is on here or how to frame this specifically, but I would say I want to work on myself in a lot of areas to then be the best mother and then
because
wife
you want
I
to be
can
perfect,
Yeah. Well, I guess not the perfection. I have to let that go too, but just
so let's make a personal vision around what kind of mother you want to be.
Okay.
And
awesome.
so not a perfect mother, right?
No.
But what are some words? And so I think people misunderstand vision versus goal.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Your vision is, as a whole, what kind of mother do you want to be?
So I guess going back to our thought map, I want to be a loving, involved mother who, this is hard to like actually put into a statement.
Well, I think loving, and what was the second word you used?
I just said involved, like
Okay.
just saying that I.
And then I want to internalize it a little bit because,
Okay.
you know, when we say involved mother, some people think that means, you know, going to every soccer game and every ballet and having every, you know, like task oriented.
Yeah.
So maybe changing that to a word like connected.
Yes. That's.
Rather than involved.
Yes.
So loving, connected. So you're connected emotionally to your child, right? Because that came up in your map.
Yeah.
And that, you know, maybe you're proud of yourself in that role.
Yeah. I would say that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's have you write that in a sentence that you can own.
Okay.
Like, I am a.
Okay. I am. Not I will be, but
Nope.
I am. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. I am.
And something about either confidence or proud of who you are in that role.
Of this? I don't know.
Of myself in this role.
Of myself in this role. Okay. Yeah. That's perfect. It's hard for me to write
Yeah?
that.
Perfect. So when you said it's hard for you to write that.
It's hard for me to write that. Like, I think it's hard for me to say I'm proud of myself. I think I can say, like, I can acknowledge things I'm good at, and I don't have a problem with that, but to actually say, like, because that means I'm, like, upholding this.
Right. Right.
And I always
and
think
that's why
that,
that's why it's a vision, and it's who you want to be proud of it.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely.
But if we, you know, by writing this now and making it, you know, kind of something you grow into,
yeah.
It gets you out of that. I'm afraid of not being a good mother.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what happens when we make goals of I want to be a good mother. Well, it's not really defined, and then you're a tasker.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a task completion mom.
No,
right?
definitely
You want to be
not.
a loving, connected mom.
Yes, absolutely.
So it helps you in your decision making, right? So when you get anxious, you go back to this personal vision.
Yeah.
In this decision that I have to make, how do I be a loving, connected mom? Okay.
Okay.
And as you do that, you gain confidence, and I want you to be able to say that you're proud of that.
Yeah, definitely.
What are the barriers to this statement? I mean, you literally didn't want to continue writing.
Physically writing it out. I would say, yeah, the negative thoughts, I think, are the biggest stopper.
Yep.
Because I feel I have all of these attributes to me. Like, I looked at it, I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm already that way, but it's more myself just telling me I'm not. So.
Right, and the pressures of the world and what other people. We were just joking yesterday because there's a culture that absolutely believes that, you know, you don't take your child out of the house before 30 days. You always have socks and hats on them. And they used to give me a really hard time when my kids were young about those things. And I can joke about it because I am confident and proud, even though I made tons of mistakes as a mom. But I wish early on somebody gave me a roadmap of how to make those decisions, because I don't know that I wanted to be a good mom, but I was having trouble defining what that was. And so I'd read a book on parenting and they would say, do this. And I'd be like, well, that's a good mom. And, you know, the church said this, and so that's a good mom. But I didn't have a personal vision to say, okay, here's this decision coming up, right? The hardships that we talk about. How do I support my child in a loving, connected way? And then, you know, putting the tasks, you know, as they come. The maps are really just what's going on in your mind at one moment, right? We're not bringing up every impression that you ever got in your life, right? But as you raise your child and things come up, map how you're feeling. Get rid of those negative thoughts, put them in the right categories so that you can make the decisions that you want to make. what can you do right now as you're 20 weeks pregnant, you're
Yeah.
like preparing yourself physically and mentally to physically be a mom.
Yeah.
What could you be doing right now?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you just touched on it. Doing those thought maps, writing it out, as we said, when I have these anxious thoughts or negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I realized it today, writing it out. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that just...
But I want to challenge you in classes
okay.
to make sure that, and this is where the Mentally Strong method can be used anywhere, is as you are learning these things,
Yes.
take what resonates with you instead of taking it as a black and white.
That's
Raising
really
a
good.
child is not black and white.
Yeah.
They'll say, do this, this, and this. You take the classes to educate yourself, to grow, but take them in a balanced approach of, okay, how can I use these things? Yeah.
That's really good advice, actually.
Well,
yeah.
and, unfortunately, the easiest part is that first year, 2 years, because physically it's the hardest part, right? Because of the change and the lack of sleep and all of the things that they'll teach you in these classes.
Yeah.
And it's easy to feel loving and connected when they are 100% dependent on you. But as they grow and they have their own independence, it's harder. The older they get, the harder it is to have a genuine connection.
Yeah.
So just remember that as she's 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, like you're where that it's easy to do that in the beginning because you show love by making sure they get fed and
absolutely.
the basics, right?
Yeah.
But when they're 5 and won't listen, or how do you have that balance of being the parent and being the authority, but staying connected?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Because this is your desire. Your desire is to have that true connection.
Totally.
And I think it may not seem connected, but as you learn to have a genuine spiritual connection, you'll be able to connect with your child easier too, especially in the teachings around that area, right? Like, anything else you want to do between now and actually delivering?
I mean, a lot of things, but I think also I have some personal goals that I also want to accomplish before I give birth, just to, I don't know.
Because everything's going to change.
Yes. I'm no longer then going to have I will have my own time, but I have certain things that, I'm writing a novel right now, and so I would love to have that completed by, just for myself,
right?
Just to have that done. Kind of, that's my goal, and it also gives me a timeline, which I'm sure as a writer, timelines are helpful.
You have a timeline that's helpful.
Yeah.
Let's just end with, what are 3 things that you learned from doing this process with me today?
Oh wow. Personally or just?
No, personally, as you mapped, and what were 3 things that you learned?
Well, number 1, that I do have it more together than sometimes I think I do. I think I have the attributes of a good mother, and my barriers really are just my negative thoughts and myself. And so, and that's something I can work on overcoming.
Yeah.
I think that I have to be aware of what, from the past, those negative thoughts, those insecurities, how they are playing into my life now. Even though they're manifesting differently, clearly, it's no longer on the playground in class and silly things like that. But just being aware of how those thoughts that were instilled at a young age are coming with me into adulthood. And anxiety at its mouth is excitement.
Yeah.
That's such a cool kind of, that's why woohoo, I'm like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So